Welcome to another edition of gCaptain Live. I'm your host and also the CEO and founder of gCaptain, John Conrad. Today on gCaptain Live, we are going to look at some holiday gifts for mariners. I got a few of the gifts that we recommended here in the office, and I want to show you guys some of them. But first, I want to make sure that this is actually recording properly. And let's see how this quality is. We're continuing to redo our setup here at gCaptain headquarters in Morro Bay, California. And as we continue to evolve our setup, we're trying out new things. Right now we have a new camera, and this camera is cool because it kind of follows me as I move around. Let's see if it does it. Yeah. So that's exciting. And we're working on the audio. We've had some few problems in the past, and we're trying to streamline, make these things as easy as possible. And I just want to check the video here. All right. If you guys have any questions or comments that you have for me or the gCaptain staff, please leave them below in the comments. And it's been a few days since our last gCaptain Live episode. We had Thanksgiving, and that was busy. But the entire gCaptain crew, except for myself, is at Workboat International Show right now in New Orleans. So if you guys are at the show or any of you are there, please send an email to Mike Schuler, our editor-in-chief. You can meet him. He's walking around the exhibit. His email is Mike, M-I-K-E, @gcaptain.com. All right, let's see how this is going here. I just want to check in the feed and make sure that this looks good. So bear with me for a second. Yeah, and Workboat's the big international show. It's probably the biggest conference just for mariners in the United States every year. You have OTC, Offshore Technology Conference, is much bigger. It's in Houston. It's an enormous conference. But that focuses on some maritime, but mostly on the drilling aspect. Workboat is sponsored by Workboat Magazine, an excellent publication, and is once a year. And it's just the marine side of the offshore industry. And it's a great conference that we attend every year because new products are launched, and we get to meet a lot of loyal readers and work with some of our advertisers at gCaptain. Hello, Tess. Thank you for signing on. And again, if any of you have any comments or anything you would like to share with us, please leave it in the comments below. All right, the video's looking good here on my computer, and we're going to get right into it. A lot of great news articles today on gCaptain.com. A Philly shipyard had just launched a new state-of-the-art Jones Act tanker. That's an interesting story. There's a cruise line that was just fined for illegal dumping. And a lot of good stories. A new replica of the Titanic is being built by the Chinese. I don't know either. You know, it was a failed design. I don't know if they are going to improve some of the watertight compartmentalization that was with the original Titanic, or if it's going to be a exact replica. I don't even know if this thing's launched. They said they are, the shipyard in China is creating the first ship now. Go read the article. Fascinating stuff. But it's the holiday season, and every year we work very hard on our holiday gift guide here at gCaptain. So we have a number of gifts and things that we think that you will like as mariners and people who are into ships and boating. And every year we compile some of our favorite gadgets and toys and put it in a holiday guide. And I have some of those items here at the studio, and I wanted to share with you guys. And if you click right now under the title in this live post, it's gCaptain Live E15 Holiday Gifts, and there's a little link, gcaptain.com/tag/gifts. If you click on that, you'll see all of our gift guides. They're separated a little bit. Our latest one was the best nautical books of 2016. And below that, we had some Cyber Monday and Black Friday deals. Some of those deals are still live right now because the retailers here in the States are moving to kind of a cyber week. So some of those deals are still live. Then we have our holiday gift guide for 2016, and then the 15 and the 14. And some of these things I'm going to show you guys are from those previous years. So if you have any questions about these gifts or any other ideas, another thing to note is if you click on this link, or if you click on any gCaptain link that brings you to Amazon.com, gCaptain gets some of the money back, and that's how we pay for this video equipment. We get most of our stuff from Amazon. Their prices are great. Their shipping's real fast. And it all comes from you guys clicking on the books we recommend. Now, we would never recommend something we didn't like. There's so many, hundreds of thousands of products on Amazon. We can really pick the ones that we know are quality and you'll like. Another thing with this gift guide we really wanted to do is make sure that all the gear is quality stuff. I've worked out at sea many years, and there's nothing worse than buying something cheap, bringing it out to the ship, and then it breaking, and you can't get a replacement. So good quality gear, some exciting things. Some things are just fun. So we're going to kick right into it. Our top gift of the year. And I've showed this on one of the lives before, but not everyone has seen that. So it's 3D nautical wood charts, and this is my own personal chart here. I apologize for getting some of the lighting into the reflection of this chart. So these are real NOAA charts that are brought in to computer design, and then they're laser cut and layered. So you can see here, this is off of Santa Barbara, California here. And these are the Channel Islands, Santa Cruz, Santa Rosa, my personal favorite, where we go most summers with the family, Catalina. And you can see the depths right here is the Santa Cruz Basin, and it's pretty deep. It's 6,300 feet deep, so you can see the ISO contour lines of the chart. Really neat stuff. All laser engraved. These things are like museum quality, guys. I mean, this is something you'd see hung at a maritime museum. And let me bring it back out here. There we go. Something that you'd see at a nautical museum, because they're real quality. And there were some questions like, how do you clean them and how do you get dirt out of them? Well, they have glass right here, so they're very easy to clean. And these are all made by a friend of mine, Robbie. He's a graduate at Cal Poly. It's a college here in San Luis Obispo. And, as part of his art projects after he graduated, he designed these charts. And they're just beautifully well done. And unfortunately, he only has ports in the United States, and he doesn't have all of them. But he does have a large majority. And if you've worked somewhere specific in the United States, this is a great item. And Tess asks, will these be available in the UK? I don't know, Tess. I know Robbie's concentrating on the US now, but he has most of the US ports. I'll ask him if he'll get charts to the UK next. And he told me to tell you guys that he decides on what ports to pick based on reader response. So if you go to gCaptain, the gift guide, and you scroll down to the wood charts and click on it, it'll bring you to the wood chart website. And there, if you contact Robbie, there's a contact. It'll give you his email, his information. If you contact him directly, tell him the harbor that you want in the UK. And if he gets enough, get all your friends to go to this link on gCaptain. Send the link to them. And then if enough of your friends and family request a specific port, that's how he decides which one to do next. So beautiful charts. I have a few. This California. I also have Manhattan. I think the next one I'm going to get is the Gulf of Mexico. So there's a beautiful chart of the Gulf of Mexico. And having worked on drill ships in the Gulf for many years, it's also, there are different sizes. A small one like that runs about $150. And then they have the big ones like the Gulf of Mexico, which are $350 charts. And according to Robbie, gCaptain readers have already bought $7,000 worth of these charts. And this is something, we are getting a small 10% kickback from wood charts, but it's only because last year we recommended these charts, getting no money, nothing from them. And we drove so many sales to Robbie that he said, hey, let's do a more formal agreement, do a sponsored post, and I give back to gCaptain. So we appreciate him being on board with us this year, but I recommended these charts way before we were getting anything from them. I really love them. I think they're the perfect gift. All right, next, favorite item of Mariners. This was last year's top pick. So this year's top pick is the chart. Last year's top pick was the Spyderco Tusk. And let me try to bring this up here so you guys can see it. I don't know how to, let's see if I can, yeah, there we go. So this is a Spyderco knife. And what's really neat about this knife is, hey, it's just really cool looking. This is about the coolest looking knife I've ever seen. Now, personally, it doesn't come like this. I took this knife and with really fine sandpaper, I sanded it down to kind of get the shiny look. But this knife, it has a marlin spike on, and it locks with this ingenious ball system here, which I just really like. And then it's got a flat blade. Now this is Spyderco's LC200N steel. So it's a new steel. At the time, this was brand new last year. This was the only knife in the world with this type, or Spyderco at least, with this type of steel. And it's really their premium stainless, a step above the H1 in terms of, now when you look at steel, you got to look at, you know, how much it rusts and also how its edge holding capabilities. So with modern knives, you need a knife that has great edge holding capabilities when you're cutting through things like Dyneema, Kevlar. But there's also the question, if it's hard, so hard, how do you get it sharpened? Now, Spyderco didn't start as a knife company. They started as a sharpening company, just making sharpening stones. Personally, I use traditional Japanese sharpening stones. I think 90% of all the knife sharpening tools and things out there are gimmicks and they don't really work. And but Spyderco makes excellent systems. So if you don't investigate the Japanese water blocks, I highly suggest Spyderco's tools. A couple other things about this knife. It's titanium. Why is titanium great? It's completely rust proof and it's lightweight. Now this isn't a cheap knife, but this is my EDC, my everyday carry. I have this knife on me every day. Now one thing that you will notice is it's not serrated. For working aboard a ship, I always carry my Spyderco Atlantic Salt. And why do I like Spyderco? Again, their manufacturing, their quality control is great. I mean, there are other great knife manufacturers, but they also have safety features. This is a minor sheep's foot, so you can still stab yourself. My Atlantic Salt that I work with, that I go out on deck with, has a full sheep's foot blade, so you can't accidentally cut yourself. And Spyderco has the best serration pattern of any company that I've seen. And I've owned a lot of knives and used a lot of knives. This one's not serrated. This is more of my crafting tool, working tool, everyday tool. When I go out on the deck, I will have a fully serrated that I can get in emergencies. And that's also what I like about Spyderco is they got their signature hole. And some companies have recently copied that, but it's really one-handed open. And the professional series, the salts, Atlantic Salt, Pacific Salt, are even easier and quicker to open. And they're lighter too because they're plastic, but I really like the titanium and the shine on this. So this is my favorite knife. I carry this everywhere. What else is there to say about Spyderco? Let's see if we have any questions, comments, concerns. And again, guys, if you have anything you want to share, please feel free to put it here. All right. So that is my everyday carry knife, the Spyderco Tusk. And it's an interesting story too. When this was one of the first knives developed by the founder of Spyderco, but there weren't the computer-aided design and manufacturing techniques available then. So he had it in a drawing. He's a sailor himself, a sailboater, not big ships, but loves sailboats. And he always wanted this knife and wasn't able to figure out the manufacturing. And when he retired last year, his son took over the company, and his first new knife was this as a present to his dad. So it's got a great story, works great. I've had it for just over a year and not a spot of rust, and I'm on the water here in Moore Bay a lot. So that is the Spyderco Salt. What else do we have here? All right, this I think was on the Gear Guide a couple years ago. This is one of my favorite things. I was actually wearing it in the office yesterday because our HVAC system, the heating wasn't working. But this is the Fleece Hoodie Hat. Man, I love this thing. They say putting on a hat and a scarf and is like putting on a sweater. All right, that's how much. But unlike a sweater, you have maneuverability. So one problem with being out at sea and trying to warm up is you can put on a lot of extra layers, but you're going to restricted maneuverability. If anyone's seen a Christmas Story where the little kid is so he can't walk. Love that movie. But, you know, a hat is a great thing. And as far as scarves, and let me grab my kit. This is my everyday. I carry this kit. It just goes in my backpack, and I'm going to show you my favorite backpack. But it's got some gloves, and it's got a little hoodie for robbing banks, and then just a neck gaiter and some gloves. All right, I also have a skull cap that goes under this hoodie. So this one goes on first if I'm really out in the elements, and then I put on and bam, man, right there, I'm so much warmer. Another trick for really staying warm is a puffy vest. All right, if you have a vest, you're going to keep your core warm, but you're not going to lose the maneuverability in your arm. So I highly suggest, I really like Patagonia stuff. It's a little expensive, but that's because there's a lifetime warranty and it's real good quality material. I prefer the natural down, although some of the synthetics are better when they get wet. But the truth is, if you get any of the fuzzy stuff wet, not the fuzzy, the puffy down stuff wet, it's not going to work anyway. So you have to have a good rain gear over it. But I like the Patagonia lifetime guarantee. If you can't afford the Patagonia, another one that's almost as good as LL Bean, they also have a lifetime warranty, llbean.com. Some guys up in Maine. And if you notice something about this stuff too is all of the cloth stuff I use is right down to my undies, to be honestly. It's all wool. Wool is the material. Guys working on deck, especially I see the guys in the grungeons gear, the fishermen, and underneath they got a flannel shirt and then a cotton t-shirt. If you do any outdoor work, and I do a lot of backpacking and solo hiking, some distant stuff out in the middle of the woods, the wilderness, they have a saying that cotton kills. Cotton gets wet very easily and it doesn't dry. It also attracts microbes, so you start to smell really bad. This wool stuff Doesn't get wet easily, dries much easier, and it's naturally antimicrobial. So your gear locker is not going to stink at the end of the day. If you read Robert Frump's book about the marine electric incident, there were only 2 survivors. One of them was, I think, the chief mate, and he was in his 50s or 60s. He was an older guy, and a lot younger guys died before him. And he really credits his survival when the marine electric sank in the frigid waters off the east coast of the United States with his wool gear. And I cringe a little bit when guys, especially with that Grungeon's gear, you're creating kind of like a greenhouse inside of your equipment. And even when you take it off, if you got cotton underneath, you're never going to dry out. Think of your jeans. Jeans are another terrible thing to wear on ships because they get wet. They'll never dry. Even something thin, all right, is going to have a lot of the same problems drying out that your jeans will. Your jeans just take so long because they are thick material. I really like cotton, and we think of it as being itchy. The new merino stuff, anything by Patagonia, is really going to be good. And I also like things like socks, where I go through a lot of them when I'm working on the deck of a ship. Socks you can wear multiple times if they're wool because of that antimicrobial design. So get rid of your cotton stuff for your work gear and go with wool. Now you'll say, oh man, John, merino wool is expensive. Yes, but you have to bring so much less of it. I used to bring a half dozen cotton shirts onto a ship just so I was able to change out and have something between laundry. Well, instead I change it out for just 2 wool, and if I have to rewear it, this stuff doesn't stink. It's really magic material, and sailors have been wearing it for centuries, guys. We really suggest getting back to merino wool. All right, so from that, let's get to a tech gadget here. This was on this year's guide. Let me try to bring it up. All right, this funky looking thing. All right, can we see it? This looks like something out of Star Trek or something, but it's a gimbal. So it's a 3-way gimbal, and you have 3 axes of rotation, and there are motors in each of these axes. So, mariners familiar with heave, pitch, yaw. We're going to know a lot more about this than the photographers. But as I activate this thing, it takes on a life of its own, right? So it also has a tripod mount on the bottom. So if I lift this up, you'll see this is just a small tabletop tripod, but you can put any type of tripod on. But what this is great for is, see, as I'm maneuvering it around, I'm really moving my arm, and the phone is steady. So I got to figure out how to bring it back. As I really maneuver it around, so a lot of like skateboarders use this, and extreme skiers. I started a website with my brother before gCaptain, Unofficial Networks, and that's where I kind of got the idea for this. But I haven't seen a marinized version of this, so you're not going to get one with stainless and real weatherproofing materials. So bringing this on the ship, you're going to have to be very careful. But what I love this for is kind of getting, your phone has amazing picture-taking capabilities. Your phone is able to take some amazing pictures now and really do the job of something larger. I have, let me see. This camera is my main one. It's an Olympus. And I have some larger Canons and such up there. We do a lot of photography here at gCaptain to get those amazing pictures we put on the website. But you can buy a gimbal like this for your phone, but you're going to spend thousands. This one was on sale Black Friday for $150. I think today it's $200. And it's amazing for ships. Now, if the ship is rolling and you're taking a picture of another ship, something external, this isn't going to help at all. But what this will help absolutely is if you're on a ship and you are in gentle motion and you're taking pictures of something else also on the ship. So it's also great for walking around in heavy weather, doing interior shots. If you want to film something inside and the vessels move around a bit, this is just going to help you steady it. Also, the phone, the iPhone 6 Plus, and this is the 7 Plus. The 7 Plus has 2 lenses, so a regular wide angle and a telephoto. We get a lot of pictures sent to us at gCaptain. A lot of those are of ships far away or of the port, and you're just too far away. That's why I love the telephoto on this iPhone. But the wide angle on this and on the Plus last year, the 6 Plus, also has motion stabilization inside. So you get 3 factors of stabilization with the gimbal, and then the actual lens is moving in these newer iPhones. And then the software is also helping to stabilize the shot. That's going to make your photographs tack sharp. All right, it's going to get them to be, you always see like the professionals and you're like, how do they get it so sharp? Well, they use a tripod, but they also use some to stabilize it, some way to stabilize it. They also do other tricks like a lot of light and stuff. But this is just fun to go around with too. I was outside with my son. He was doing a Nerf war with his sister, and I was running around. And really Hollywood professional style movies with this. And the 4K camera now on the iPhone gives you some great stuff. Some other camera gear here. All right, this was a gCaptain find, I think a couple years ago too. This is the Joby Gorilla Pod. This is the Pro model. So you don't need one this size if you're just using your iPhone. But if you have a DSLR or professional grade camera, that's where this is great. So what is awesome about this thing is these legs all bend. All right. So what's this good for? Well, it's good for 2 things. One is if the ship is listing over a little bit, you can kind of move this around so one leg is longer or shorter than the other and get these strange angles that we tend to find on the ship in order to get our camera level. But what it's also great is for wrapping around handrails and stanchions and on lines, and you can really get some creative shots with this Joby, J-O-B-Y. So that's one of my tools that I use when I'm on board ship taking photographs. And this is the camera I use, guys. Now they're coming out with a new model this year, so it wasn't on our gift guide this year because the new model shipped next week. I'm very excited. But this is the Olympus Omd Em5 Mark II. It's got a articulating screen. This is a mirrorless camera. So what I love about these Olympuses is they're a lot smaller than the Canon, but still give you professional grade shots. But another thing about this is this has this, and some of the Sony cameras, the newer Sony cameras, have that same stabilization inside, which is critical for those tack sharp photos and also to get smooth video footage. So that's my camera, and below it I have a Really Right Stuff. It's a local company here. They make these mounts, and then I can they're called Arca mounts, put it on my tripod. So you see this is the tripod. When you're buying tripods, you want to make sure all of your mounts have the same connections so you can go from one tripod to the other. But these Really Right Stuff L bracket lets you change from portrait to landscape, which is awesome. All right. Will Beasley says, wool versus synthetic. Any thoughts? Yeah, great question, Andrew. I have a lot of thoughts on wool versus synthetic. Both are excellent. So if you go back and the founder of Patagonia has some amazing information in it on the development of synthetic fabric. All right. So my favorite kind of pullover sweater is I have a Patagonia fuzzy sweater that I've literally had since high school. It's the only piece of clothing that's lasted, and I wear that thing all the time. Now, the synthetic fuzzy material was first developed, the founder of Patagonia, he's got a French name, even though he's American, but those fuzzy toilet seat covers is what he made the first fuzzy Patagonia jacket off of. But the problem with synthetic is it doesn't wick away moisture. Wool naturally, because of the dimensions of the fiber, wicks away the moisture from your body. The synthetic doesn't do that. So they actually put micro channels in those individual synthetic fibers, and that's what lets it wick away. But the reason I prefer wool, even though it's more expensive, to the synthetics is the fact that you have wool, doesn't smell at all. You can wear the same pair of socks multiple times. Even if you get sweaty, they dry out quickly. It kills the bacteria, and I think that's important, especially if you're spending hours on deck and you can't change your clothes. If you've ever wear the grungeons stuff where you really create a greenhouse inside you, and with that cotton, I mean, it only takes one watch for it to get really stinky in there, and that's because microbes are growing. They won't grow on wool. Well, synthetic has the wicking thing of wool and the fast drying of wool, so the two major benefits that are going to help save your life, but it doesn't have the antimicrobial. So if you wear any synthetics, man, those stink worse than cotton. They just do. They are smelly. They're going to stink. All right. The advantage why I like wool better is because you have to pack less, because you can wear those clothes more before going, man, I need to change this shirt or these things. So the synthetics are great. Wool is better. Now, when we get in thicker stuff, like the fuzzy that I have, that's pretty thick material, then I prefer synthetics. If it's an outer layer, synthetics are fine, because as long as it can kind of breathe, it's okay. But inner layer, especially the base layer right against your skin, anything that's going against your skin, definitely prefer the wool for the antimicrobial features. All right, great question. Thank you, Andrew. Getting on here. Next tech gadget is the new GoPro Hero 5. Now, I've never owned a GoPro before. My brother runs Unofficial Networks, the ski website, and we produced a movie together called NAR. This should have been on the holiday guide, but GNAR, and actually for this week only, we are letting people download this and watch it for free, I think, for the next couple weeks for the holiday season. So if you just Google GNAR, the movie, really fun, funny movie about the ski culture, and the website that I started with my brother. He still runs it, but we launched it together before we launched gCaptain. Well, they use GoPros all the time. We use some GoPros with the NAR stuff, and really great things. The thing I like about GoPro is they're really small and they're really strong. So there was just a viral video this week of a guy actually had it on his helmet skydiving, and it fell out. And you can see the footage as this thing's falling from 10,000 feet. And then he found it, and it survived. So these are really strong devices. But I never bought them because previous models of GoPro didn't have the LCD screen. You had to buy an extra thing, and I'm not going to mess with an extra piece when I'm out on a ship or in inclement weather. I'm just not going to do it personally. There's also it was very hard. There were little buttons that you had to do to get around. This one is all touchscreen, the new 5. So you can see all your videos just by touching the back, which I love. I also love, I don't need that external case. The new GoPro 5 is waterproof or water resistant. You could drop it in your bathtub. It'll be fine without the case, just by itself, intrinsically. So that's excellent. And you also have, what I really like is, and I'm on the bridge of the ship and something goes wrong, right? The tugboat's messing up or something else happens and things are too busy. I'm not going to go fiddle with a camera to try to figure out, and you never know when those incidents are going to happen. But the new GoPro, you could just set on a tripod or on a mount somewhere on the bridge, and then you just have to yell out, GoPro, start recording. Voice activated. This is a huge benefit for us mariners, something that's really great. Francis says, if only smartphones were held to the same rugged standards as GoPro cameras are. There are some cases you can get for cameras. And actually, the new iPhone 7 is pretty rugged. This is the first iPhone that is water resistant. You can drop this one in the bathtub as well. The problem with the iPhones is the screen. It's made out of something called Gorilla Glass. Now this lens cover here is made out of sapphire glass, a lot stronger. All Rolex watches are made out of the sapphire glass, but it has to be grown organically. And they actually opened a plant in the United States to try to grow that size sapphire glass. But the last I read, Apple failed. So this is almost as strong as a GoPro, but this is the weak thing. And if you do any research, 90% of all cracked screens from iPhone happen when people get out of their car. They put their phone on their lap, they get out. So as long as you make sure that you're holding your phone strong when you get out of your car, you're going to be safe. Now on a ship, I think these are pretty good. They're not intrinsically safe. There's some other problems, but as long as you handle it carefully and you get a good case, then they're going to work well. So I just got the GoPro, and this is the first model that I recommend to sailors. But if you want to save money, this thing's expensive too. It's like $400. LL Bean was having a sale for $300 a couple weeks ago. That's where I got this one. And then they had a $50 coupon. So you can get some deals, but the cheaper ones are great for things like tank inspections and going on deck. All right, here's another of my absolute favorite pieces of gear. This is my coffee mug, guys. This was on our gift guide this year. I might mispronounce this, but it's Zojirushi. This is the mug to get. I've seen the Yeti mugs, and some people have said, John, that's so much better. These are the mugs. This thing's strong as hell, and it is the most insulated. I put coffee in the morning, and if I don't get to it, it's still going to be warm the next day with this thing. It's real magical material. It's Japanese made, Japanese constructed. It's got the locking features. And also your coffee. I don't want to show you my gross coffee thing, but the coffee is not going to spill out because this really holds it secure. Now, if you put something steaming, this does have a safety where the whole top will, if it gets overpressurized. But otherwise, this is magic material. And someone just wrote here, the most essential gear for underway to be sure. Yeah, if I could only bring one thing on a ship, it would be this. Because how many times are you on, the ship and you make coffee and then something happens, you get called away, and by the time you get back to your coffee, it's cold, and your AB hasn't made a new pot. Man, this is it. I also have my favorite coffee on this year's gift guide. It's Blue Bottle. Again, it's a little bit expensive, but I could talk for all day about coffee. Maybe we'll have a coffee episode. If any of you want me to do a coffee episode in the next few weeks, give a thumbs up. Let me know that that's something that interests you here. All right, and I'm told that my battery is not working fully. Let me check this. So I'm going to wrap this up. We're almost done anyway. Black Friday deals. We had some great deals on Pelican cases. These are my favorite cases. You put my gear in here, and man, you could drive over this with a truck. I'm sure all you guys working on ships are familiar with these. These were just half off on Amazon. They still have some models for half off for the whole week. And it's got the foam, the pluck out foam, where you can put individual things in here. And this thing you can drop off the side of the ship and it's going to float. And you can even go diving with it. It's got a pressure equalization. That's what that is, to prevent it from collapsing under the pressure of the ocean. Love these things. All my essential gear when I go out to ship are always in Pelican boxes. I have different sizes. I also like to do different colors so I can quickly know what I have and grab those things. All right, finally, we had the best books of 2016. Most of the books that I bought and read are on the Kindle. I just love the Kindle device. Amazon's got a huge sale on Kindles right now. I'd say get at least the Featherweight or Paperlight, I think it's called, but I like the Voyager. And then there's a one higher, which is super expensive, and I don't suggest. But the Voyager's currently my favorite Kindle. I think it was on a gear guide last year, so I don't have most of the books to actually show you guys. But the Kindle's great. Also, when you buy the Kindle, you have two options, a Wi-Fi option and then a 3G option. The 3G option, you don't connect with your cell phone company. So I have, my phone is on AT&T and my iPad is on Verizon. Well, I didn't have to give any of that information to Amazon. You can download books for free, and you're not being charged by your cell phone provider. But it's also great because you can get gCaptain news. If you search in Amazon gCaptain, I think it's like $2 a month. You can get over that 3G network. If you have the 3G option, gCaptain news. You can also get the New York Times or the Wall Street Journal or whatever newspaper that you like, magazines you like, and it works on cell phone networks, 3G networks around the world. So you pull into, you pull into Southampton, UK, or Kakinada, India, or anywhere in the world, you pull in, and before you can get a wireless signal or anything, as long as you have a basic cell phone signal, you can start downloading books, and it'll download all of the gCaptain if you're paying that $2 a month. And we don't get that money. That's what's Amazon's. That's how they get back. That's how they offer the free cell phone for you guys, is by selling books and offering these subscriptions. But you can also get your newspapers, magazines. So I love that. Well, what books did we pick? It's a gCaptain reader, Rob McDermott. This is his first book, Deadly Straits. And then his latest book is What Would Happen? Pushback. And it's the second in a series of books by, and you can see his name, R.E. McDermott. Now, Bob is a graduate of Kings Point, and he was an engineer and a surveyor at shipyards for many years. So there are a lot of these books. Clive Klessler, I enjoy reading about that. But he makes mistakes at times. Bob doesn't. I mean, this is, if you're a mariner, you're going to be reading this and be, thank you. Because there are a lot of books that we read. I've showed them, The Bowditches, Marine Economics by Martin Stopford. Great books, but they're boring. They're not the fun read. This is the fun read, guy. This is the Tom Clancy. This is the James Bond book. This is exciting stuff, but it's written by a mariner who really knows what he's talking about, and that makes a huge difference. His latest book is Pushback. It's second of his series, and this one, Deadly Straits, is about kind of like a 007 plot, spies and government takeovers of ships and CIA and intrigue. The newest one is End of the World Scenario, which I find fascinating. So his main character, there's two. There's one who's a Coast Guard chief at the Coast Guard base in Wilmington, Delaware. His other main character is a ship captain who brings a ship into Wilmington when the end of the world happens. So the whole power network goes out, everything. It's one of these apocalyptic stories. And I'll give you a little hint, the guys, because they're on the ship and they have water makers and stuff, you know, they do a little better than the civilian population. So maybe that's an escape plan if we ever have a zombie apocalypse. But if you're interested in that stuff, his latest book, Pushback, and the first one in the series, I forget, are awesome. I highly suggest it. And then another of the best of 2016, I've showed this before on the show. It's Tugboats by Paul Farrell. Paul has spent 13 years working on this book, and it's got beautiful illustrations of boats, tugboats. But I also like, you want to know what type of boats have fixed blade propellers versus controllable pitch and the different types of propulsion system. He's got it. You want to know how tugboats tie up, what kind of line they use. I mean, this is a beautiful coffee table book, but it's also really damn informative, guys. So with some beautiful illustrations that Paul has been working on for 13 years. See if I can show you those illustrations. Yeah. So great stuff. All right, guys, that concludes gCaptain Live episode 15. If you have any additional questions or comments, please send us a message on Facebook, or even if this video ends, you can still leave a comment below. And I apologize if there are any questions that I didn't answer. We're running out of batteries here. I'm doing this solo. Again, the whole team's at the Workboat Show. So if you happen to be in New Orleans or the area, email Mike, M-I-K, at gCaptain.com, and meet up with him. And tell him he'll buy you a free coffee, okay? Tell him John said you buy me a free coffee if you meet up with him at Workboat. I think that ends tomorrow, so do it now. All right, thank you, guys. Thank you so much for having me and letting us on the show. I love the user response, and I hope you stay tuned to gCaptain. We may have some more gift ideas coming in future episodes or on the website. So thank you so much. Rick says, great feed, man. Looking forward to the next one. Cheers. Thank you, Rick. I appreciate your support. You guys are the ones. And again, if you buy this stuff via our links, that's what allows us to buy the camera and the lights and make this studio great. So share those gift guides with your friends and buy through the gCaptain link on Amazon. And we'll definitely have more shows, and they'll look better and be smoother. All right. Thank you so much, and take care.